It's hard to trace when the idea of cancel culture began, but it has had a profound effect on people's careers and reputations. The latest person taking a hit is model and TV host Chrissy Teigen. She is under fire for allegedly cyberbullying a number of people on Twitter. Teigen released a lengthy apology on Monday, but those targeted in Teigen's tweets continue to speak out. So joining me now to discuss more on this is psychologist Dr. Gardere and Jon Baskin from the New School for Social Research. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for being with us.
Of course. Good
Thanks for
morning.
having us.
Dr. Jeff, let me talk to you first. How would you describe cancel culture, and why has it been really thriving in recent years?
Well, Dr. Baskin talked a lot about this at a conference he was at, and I think he'd give you a great answer. But I would say cancel culture has become something that is quite toxic when people may not agree with what someone has to say in the extreme kind of situation that they shout them down, and it does not allow for differing opinion. But I would also say that we really should be in a space where disrespectful, explicit bias, the isms, people should be held accountable for those things too.
Dr. Baskin, so let me get to what you were saying about that Dr. Jeff was referring to. Why do some people get canceled for bad behavior or comments while others do not?
That's a hard question. I think there are a lot of reasons that aren't always logical about that has to do with the institutional position of a person, what kind of power they have, what kind of groups go after them, and that can be kind of random and unpredictable. But I think the thing I'm sort of more interested in is not sort of what happens to individual people. Whether Chrissy Teigen gets canceled or not is probably not of huge concern to a lot of people. But I think each one of these incidents and these high profile incidents does have a kind of effect on the culture at large. We call it cancel culture. It's not just cancellation, but a new culture that's being created. And I think it's really important to think about the impact that each of these incidents has on people in their workplaces, in their PTA meetings, in their, in the art they consume, and these kind of things in their everyday lives.
Dr. Jeff, comedians have been under fire for their jokes. Comedian Kevin Hart specifically recently spoke out about when his reputation was on the line for an anti-gay joke that he told years ago. He actually lost his gig hosting the Oscars. So help us understand, is this cancel culture a power issue?
Well, it can be a power issue. If someone doesn't like what you said, of course, you pay the price for that. But looking at the Kevin Hart situation, even he stepped up and apologized for what he said. And many people were making those kinds of jokes, anti-gay jokes, for example, many years ago, and they weren't called out for it, and they're being called out for it now. And I think the important thing for us to understand, and a lot of people complain, they say, well, we can't have fun anymore. Sir Charles Barkley said, one of the reasons he's going to leave his gig in about 2 years is because we can't talk about the things we used to or have the fun we used to have. But I think it forces us to step up and be able to share our ideas in a much more respectful way. And when it comes to comedy, if you want to make fun of people, then it can't be crass. It has to be something that is thoughtful, that is helpful, that actually moves the conversation forward.
Well, we saw Kevin Hart, as you talked about, he apologized. His career rebounded after that. Chrissy Teigen recently apologized for her behavior on social media in a very lengthy post. Here's a bit of what she wrote. She said, "Not a day, not a single moment has passed where I haven't felt the crushing weight of regret for the things that I've said in the past." So let me ask you, Dr. Baskin, are apologies enough now? Can this cancel culture see an apology and realize, you know what, okay, they learned from it?
Well, I guess the question is, what are we learning from these apologies? And it's interesting. I'm glad I'm on with a psychologist, because Chrissy Teigen also talks about the pleasure she got. Why did she do this in the first place? Why did she engage in this bullying behavior online? She talks about how pleasurable it was to join a mob of people in denouncing somebody for something that she felt was morally wrong. And I think it's important to recognize, while there as the other guest was saying, there are good things about this culture and trying to make people accountable for the things they say. but there also can be a kind of pleasure that people take in attacking under the cover of self-righteousness, in just sort of venting cruelty and bullying behavior. And that's a very human behavior. It's something I think we'll never be rid of entirely, but it's important to be able to recognize when that's happening. And Chrissy Teigen seems now to say she recognizes that's happening. We'll see if she refrains from that kind of thing going forward when the next sort of moral bullying attack takes place. But I think that's something all of us have to get better at recognizing, is the kind of person who presents themselves as sort of in the moral avant-garde, you know, enlightening us, but is actually just using these sort of social justice tropes to bully people, to engage in old-fashioned cruelty, which is something you know, that I think we need to get better at seeing when that's happening. There's
so much to discuss on this. We're simply out of time. Dr. Jeff, Dr. Baskin, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate your insight on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.